Well, yes, my name is Dr. Sunah Chung. I work at the University of Northern Iowa, and my cultural and linguistic background is from South Korea. So literally, I'm South Korean. So we are a research team, even though two other research members could not make it today, but I'm doing the presentation on behalf of them as well. So the title of the presentation is Equality and Inclusion Through Children's Literature, a content analysis of a United States award-winning titles. So we three educator and teacher educators are interested in children's literature because that reflects social and cultural values of that community. And we can see the word throughout children's literature. So that's why we started to analyze and children's literature to learn about what's there, what is represented. So that's today's overall topic of the presentation. So here is the second slide. In education field, there is a strong emphasis on achieving equity and inclusion for all students across the world. And in order to foster students' kind of inclusion and equity in education, we believe that it is essential to be aware of differences, so-called diversity. So we teachers play a major role in interrupting children's building of prejudice and bias by adopting children's literature from the young ages throughout their school years. In many elementary and middle school classrooms, they contain extensive number of diverse library collections representing diverse race, class, disability, and regional aspects. However, we know that having books is not enough. Like we needed to know about what books do you have in your classroom or at your home library, and what does it mean to you? So that's why we started to consider about the content and quality and diverse representation of books to build more global knowledge and awareness of diversity. So here is the population of America's public school students populations. So this pie chart only kind of shows the racial diversity of our students in America, but as the country is known for the diverse groups of people in diverse aspects like against religion and disability and culture and even gender and socioeconomic status, it is important to represent the diverse student population in children's literature as a kind of a medium to learn about the culture. So our approach to diverse representation in children's literature extends beyond the US society. Through social media, nowadays children worldwide are exposed to diverse populations and their stories. It's not just about American children's story, but other countries' stories as well. So in this sense, our presentation addresses the following questions to share America's culture and values through children's literature. So here is the methodology part. So we research team compiled a database of children's books from the 4 stakeholders categories, as you can see on the screen. The one big kind of a chunk is librarian awards affiliated with the American Library Association Youth Media Awards. So they kind of have a bunch of a list of the awards specifically targeting certain populations. It can be African American, like a Black People's Award, or Asian American and Pacific Islanders, or even Indigenous Culture and People Award. So there are different types of award under this category. And teacher professional organization, they kind of produce kind of notable books every year. So we also kind of reviewed all those book lists, and top 100 lists and the industry expert awards are also combined to learn about all these books published in America and so-called acclaimed or awarded. So the corpus in this analysis resulted in like 86 titles. And we classified those books into the grade level bands, such as pre-kindergartner to second grader group, 3 to 5th graders group, and 6th to 8th graders group. So we conducted content analysis, focusing on the gender representation or character type and racial, ethnic representation and socioeconomic status. So this article, the kind of exploratory version was already published. And then in our presentation, we are going to dig into more about the details, what we found for the following articles, soon to be published, hopefully. So here is our findings based on those analysis. So again, we will start with the fantasy genre, but okay, let me briefly explain about findings before I share the slide. Sorry about that. In the next set of slides, I'm going to show you the graphs and relevant book covers from our data. So each slide contains the frequency data, like a number of the representation and book covers to support your understanding of the chart. But we don't mean that these books are the best one for being presented. We selected those books to present our categories and to support your understanding of the chart. So please, I want to make sure about that before I introduce the findings. So it's about the genre for the first analysis. So fantasy genre is consistently listed across the grade level bands from pre-K2 and 3 to 5th grader and 6 to 8th graders, as you can see on the screen. And although the numbers decrease, but fantasy is the most acclaimed books. In contrast, historical fiction increases across the grade band, and realistic fiction is also widely recommended across all age groups. But the presence of informational texts and biographies is low across the grade bands. That's a kind of a unexpected, like a not promising results, because nowadays in America, we kind of emphasize the use of informational text and biography to enhance children's reading and writing and disciplinary knowledge. So that we are keep an eye on, hopefully to see more informational and biography across the grade bands. You can see that kind of samples on the right side of the screen. The Sylvester and the Magic Pebble is a fantasy with animal characters. And the second one from the mixed up files of Miss Basil E. Frankweiler is a realistic fiction targeting usually for 5th graders in America. And Freedom Over Me is a historical fiction representing 11 slaves' lives in the past. So these are kind of books that we highlighted in our curriculum and in the classrooms to represent diverse kind of genres and books. And when it comes to the characters, it would be easy to predict that the presence of human characters increases with the target age groups from the pre-K. So pre-K, they likely to have a non-human books, but it decreases across the as the children's age grows up. That's pretty expected results. And Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, that has animal characters and people love to read those books. So that's pretty popular in America. And Ramona and Her Father is a realistic fiction describing family resilience and a financial kind of a burden, representing the middle and lower grade economic status in American culture and family. And One Crazy Summer is a historical fiction and discusses racism and civil rights. And gender, when it comes to gender-wise, gender representation varies by grade level, with more male main characters in books for younger and upper grade audiences, and more female main characters in grades 3 to 5th. But unfortunately, there are not instances of sexual representations outside the male and female binary. That's kind of an interesting kind of a reverse from our point of views, because in America we emphasize the gender diversity as well. So that's kind of a things that we may need to pay attention to learn about American cultures and what's happening now. The examples on the right side, No David, that book represents typical boy character when it comes to the gender-wise. And Voice of Freedom, Fannie Lou Hamer, that's a biography, tells the story of the civil rights activist. And the book focuses on her determination and perseverance and courage in facing adversity for African American. So this representation of a woman is against the stereotyped woman's role, more active and leader type of woman. So that we want to highlight as a gender representation in our list. And New Kid is a graphic novel for 6th to 8th grade readers, and this book explores the themes such as racial prejudice or social classism and identity through Asian boys' views. Race and ethnicity, we cannot ignore this part in America. So white characters outnumbers, of course, other racial groups across all grade bands, with the presence of white and black characters increasing with age. Other minority groups like Asian and Asian Indian and Latinx and Middle Eastern are less visible across the grade bands in our kind of awarded and acclaimed books. So I wanted to share the selected people of color main character books from the list, as you can see on the left side. Grandfather's Journey for younger readers is a story about Japanese immigrants to America. And Josephine represents Black woman in America fight against the discrimination and history. And Esperanza Rising tells of Latina immigrants and their American dream, typical American dreams. So those are kind of representing people of color's life in America throughout children's literature. When it comes to the religion, particularly Christianity increase with the target age groups. So in the grade 6 to 8 band, books include characters with native spirit and Jehovah's Witness and Buddhist beliefs, but the most of the books include some kind of a Christianity backgrounds and their settings. There are not many diverse kind of representation of religions, even though America has lots of populations who have different religious backgrounds than the Christianity. The book Last Stop on Market Street, that represents Christianity by visiting the church facility for community service. That's a kind of representation in children's book. Brown Girl Dreaming depicts families' religious backgrounds of a Jehovah's Witness. And the Birch Bark House for 6th to 8th grader, it's a story about indigenous Ojibwa girl and presents the relationship between the humans and nature around the Anishinaabe spirituality and respect for nature. So those are kind of examples we can think about diverse religious representation in America. And overall, the data in this category, disability category, shows a lack of disabled main characters. Most of the characters with disabilities wear eyeglasses. Like in the past, we considered that eyeglasses are also a disability item or symbol. So most books have eyeglasses, but not the other disabled effects or aspects. Well, one text in grade 3 to 5th band includes an elder main character, and she temporarily use a cane, as you can see on the screen, like a Miss Rumpus's. So she used a cane. And the other one, the book in the grade 6 to 8 band features a main character with a burned hands caused by a fire. But those examples of the main character's disability is developed by aging and recovered in the end. Because on the dust, the main character's burned hands is recovered. So we do not consider it as a disability anymore. So we can say that the main characters with this type of a temporary disability cannot represent populations whose disability is a permanent disability, like impairs across their lifetime. So, well, we authors looked into not main characters to find an example, and the book rules. This is an example, but it's not a main character. But rather than the main character, there are sub characters who has disability issues across their lifetime. So in this book, you can find a main character, Catherine, 12 years old girl. She takes care of her younger brother, David, and he has autism. So that's a kind of one example we can find as a disability representation. So throughout this findings and process, we thought about what does it mean for from our books published in America to cater on international audiences. We thought about that. What does it mean to our global audiences? So one thing we can talk about is like the diversity within U.S. children's literature, of course. Well, we believe that children's literature feature characters from various racial and ethnic backgrounds, and those books can foster cultural awareness and empathy among global readers, even though some groups are still underrepresented. So we can see that as a medium to learn about others, but at the same time to see ourselves. And I believe that the global audiences also can do the same things by using this literature to learn about America, who are they and what they value. Another thing is like the findings from our list can encourage global readers to discuss representational gaps. So parents and teachers can use this literature to highlight the lack of gender diversity, like LGBTQ plus characters, and congenital disabilities, like lifelong disabilities, to advocate for more inclusive stories that we needed to we need to be aware of. And also we can compare these findings with their own country's literature to seek out and appreciate diverse narratives. Again, my background is South Korea. So when I think about my country's children's literature, I don't remember many books to discuss about gender diversity and of course the disability, and no religions, to be honest. And also I can emphasize that I don't see many racial representations, of course. Of course, I need to consider about the background and context of that culture, my country's culture. But at the same time, we can use children's literature published in America. I can expand my views, more inclusive populations. So here is the conclusion. Like if someone asked us if the award-winning and acclaimed children's literature in America feature a diverse characters, we can say that it's not enough to represent U.S. culture and U.S. values. School-aged children, of course the school-aged children's population in this country, in America. But these characters in the books here reflect the various aspects of contemporary American society, including diverse ethnicities and cultures and ability and family structures. So we keep kind of arguing that like a children's literature plays a important role in reflecting and shaping young readers' understanding of the world. So by kind of adopting and promoting more children's literature, including diverse characters and cultures, we can enhance our views as a global citizens. So that's our conclusion of the research teams when we analyze children's literature published in America. Okay, thank you so much for listening and watching my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions or discussion topics you have.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions for Dr. Chung?
I see that there is a question before mine, so I'll hold for mine.
Okay. Oh, there's from the chat. Okay, there's no question from the chat. Okay, so yeah, so I like your. It seems like you're trying to cluster these books, right, according to these many different categories. So this is awesome. Uh, h- how are you trying to make this like more of the 21st century, given that, nowadays people are, I mean, kids are just so techy. Uh, do you make this available in like, anything they can just read from their iPad and stuff so that it becomes like part of a, I would say, open to everyone who have iPads or okay, that's